Markets are ways for businesses to grow. The overall mission is to like create these massive markets that would enable these businesses to grow. So how do you not get bogged down by like the actual failure itself?
If you make a mistake, it's for your own good. Like, you're supposed to learn something from this, and then you apply your lesson to like something else.
Like we don't exist without vendors, and vendors trust each other, and like trust is the most important thing with this whole space. I want to encourage that as much as possible.
Small business owners, but also like you're kind of like going through this journey together as well. Like, you can also see like other people's mistakes and how you can like also avoid that as well. My dad was actually rescued by dolphins.
Can you tell us that story?
He was 13 years old when he escaped Vietnam.
Welcome everyone to episode 1 of In the Trenches. I'm here with Andrea Liu. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi, thank you. Can you tell us a bit about yourself? Tell us about your company.
So I started off as a graphic designer, just basically doing print work for my business.
Okay.
And then basically I went through like this weird spiritual phase. And then I started creating like these tarot decks.
Okay. What was the spiritual phase you went through?
It was a little bit of like a tragic lesbian breakup, and then like wanting to just kind of do something with my life. But also it sort of happened like post COVID. So I was trying to kind of like figure out like, what am I supposed to, what do I do with my life now? I'm also like unemployed. I need a job, blah, blah, blah. And then I had like this weird kind of like epiphany one day as I was like trying to consult like my tarot deck. Normally when I look at a tarot deck, I try to interpret the image, but then I never remember what any of the cards mean. So I decided, why don't I combine like my graphic design skills with like my spirituality and then create like my own set of tarot decks.
Interesting. So, sorry, can you tell me how tarot decks work? Do you make your own? Does everyone make their own?
So I make my own. You can make your own if you wanted to. But traditional tarot decks, they usually start off as like 72 cards in a deck.
Okay.
And they're usually like different shapes, a little bit elongated, about this size.
The cards themselves.
Yeah,
Okay.
the cards themselves. The ones that I created, they're more suited to, I guess, like smaller hands, because what I found was like if you try to shuffle with like the bigger decks, it's really hard to do that. It's really hard to handle. So I made them like poker sized.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I had like another thought as well as I was creating it. So as I was studying the original meaning of the cards, I also noted that a lot of the tarot card readers, they would either do energy readings as well. So in each deck of tarot cards, there's 4 suits. So there's the wands, their cups, swords, and I believe coins, usually known as pentacles, but we also call them coins as well. And so each suit corresponds to a different energy. So for example, wands is associated with fire, very forward moving energy. It's like the energy of like lighting your ass on fire. If
Nice.
like
Okay.
as urgency.
Yes, okay.
Cups is usually associated with water, so water signs. And so I took that and I also color coded my deck of cards as well.
Nice.
So people can kind of know like, oh, this is associated with water, this is associated with earth, so on and so forth. And then another thing that I found was, for new tarot readers, if they're trying to read their own cards or if they're trying to read for a loved one, they usually put their biases into like their own reading. And so it's never usually that accurate, or you kind of like sugarcoat it so it's easier for them to take. And you're technically not supposed to do that. So what I did was I removed all the imagery and replaced it all with text.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
why does that? Oh, I guess because then it's just whatever the text is. That's what
Exactly.
it is.
It's like
Okay.
very direct, and it leaves very little room for misinterpretation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that take away room for interpretation though?
Not really, because the way I designed the cards or worded the, I guess the text on the cards, the first deck that I actually made was the introspection deck. And so I created like these really open-ended questions based on the original meaning of the card. And then it would be up to the reader to kind of interpret like, how does this relate to me? So let's say, for example, I were to ask myself, like, oh, where do I see myself like 10 years from now? I'm kind of stuck. What do I do with my life? They pull a card, and then it would ask them like additional questions on top of whatever questions that you ask yourself. So it starts like a conversation with yourself, but it also like allows people, like if you're doing a reading for other people, it allows like a deeper conversation to happen.
Okay, okay. So it's sort of built into that. Okay,
Exactly. Yeah.
interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And so where are you now? Like what's the focus of the business?
So I kind of there's two sides of it. There's like the artistic side where I collect sea glass art, and
Okay.
I try to like put out a lot of my sea glass art out there because that's kind of how I started out. I wanted my business to be like about my art, but then on the other hand, like there's this need for sorry, there's this need for tarot readers, and so I kind of like incorporate both. I feel the artistic part of my business, I don't think it would have existed without like the tarot spiritual part of that
Got it.
business. So
Okay.
that's why I have both there.
Yeah. Okay. And so can you tell me about the demand? You said there was quite a demand for tarot card readers. What type of customers do you have who are these people who demand them?
So it literally ranges from girls who also do tarot to business owners or anyone just kind of wanting to know what tarot is about, but they're a little bit too terrified. But I present it in a way where it's like very safe. It's like, oh yeah, this is very beginner friendly. Like it won't attack you. I won't attack
Okay,
you.
okay.
And then I basically tell them, okay, well, how you can have control over this is basically like you pick the deck that you want me to pull from based on like the energies of like or whichever deck that you're drawn to, and then I would do a reading based on that. So let's say, for example, if they wanted an affirmation from the affirmation tarot deck, it would basically give them words of affirmation. On the other side, if they wanted to be called out, they would pick from the unhinged tarot.
That's what I did.
Yeah,
It's
that one's
traumatic.
like the most
Yeah.
popular one.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's not much out there like that, right? The
No, I'm
unhinged
pretty
ones?
sure like this is kind of like the first. Like I was looking it up on Google just to kind of see if there was any like similar like products out there, but I didn't really quite see anything like that.
Okay. What inspired the creation of that deck?
Cards Against Humanity.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw like a lot of like the popularity with that, but as well as existing card games that had like text that would basically ask people questions in order to kind of like get friends or like family members closer together. So I was like, why don't I also like apply that with tarot cards?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good mix too. It
Yeah,
breaks the ice very easily.
exactly.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, can you tell me what the biggest challenge is of running your business?
The biggest challenge is knowing how to budget.
Okay.
That would be like money is not like my strongest suit, and yet at the same time it's also like you can't live without money. Like you do business with money. When you apply to markets, you have to like have money set aside, and then you have to kind of like calculate, okay, this is how much I need to make in order to like apply for the next market. And then sometimes it really doesn't do well, so you kind of have to like budget even further, like, okay, where can I cut back? And like again, like as like a new business,
Mhm.
like I'm starting from absolutely nothing, right?
Yeah.
So like the first year, obviously I'm gonna have to like cut my losses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an investment.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so is it all just market to market? Is that the main source of your income or source of like budgeting?
Originally it wasn't. Like I was working like a full-time job, and
Okay.
the funds that I had saved from my full-time job, I was able to put into my business.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm not employed full-time anymore, so this kind of experience like working as a vendor at the markets,
Mhm.
it is full-time work for me now.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So do you find there's a lot of pressure for each market or yeah, is there?
It depends on the market and depends on how well the organizer is.
Okay.
So one of the markets that I attended last Saturday, there is a little bit of pressure because one, they don't do any marketing for the vendors. They don't showcase like who's going to be there at the markets. And if they do, it's very like targeted businesses that have partnered with him for a very long time.
Got it.
Yeah. I do feel like there is a little bit of favoritism with like some of the organizers, and like that's okay, but it's also only okay if it's like to your benefit,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, how about aside from markets, is so are markets your main source, or have you tried online? Have you tried other ways of growing the business?
I do tarot card readings remotely, so that's something that
Okay.
I've been doing. So if anyone needs to have like a card reading, then they can reach out to me like on Instagram. I'm trying to build a website right now, but it's just very time consuming.
Okay.
It's also very like costly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In what way? Time wise?
Time wise, it's because I'm not like very technologically what's that word that I'm
Savvy?
working? Yeah, I'm savvy. I'm not very
Okay.
technologically savvy.
Yeah.
So it takes me a little bit longer. I did have someone working on my website, but it's just been like a very like chaotic time for the both of us, so we haven't really put our attention towards that. But most of the marketing I've done has just been through Instagram.
Okay. Like
Yeah.
reels, content, things
Reels
like that.
content,
Yeah.
anything like that. Or even like creating like the graphics as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Your graphics are amazing.
Thank you.
I like the flow of all
I
of them.
tried my best.
Yeah. You should go into graphic design.
I really should. I don't
Oh,
know why I haven't thought about it sooner.
we should. Okay, and so from a content perspective, how do you approach creating content for your business?
I feel like because I chronically live online, I kind of have this idea of like what to do. So if I wanted like engagement with like my audience, then I would like create like polls and like be interactive with them. I'll ask a question, and then like from there like they'll respond, right, based on like what the question is.
Mhm.
If I wanted to like create like a story of like what I'm doing, then I'll just literally do that. It's very like organic.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
just what's happening.
Yeah.
And does it work? Like, do you find that drives sales for the business, or is it more just general engagement?
It's more for general engagement, just to kind of like at least show people what I'm doing, because I
Okay.
feel like as I'm running my business, like first year running my business ever, like I find that people want to see like who is running the business and like who the person is behind everything.
Yeah.
Like who they are as a person, what their values are, like, how they talk, like what their habits are,
Mhm.
what values they stand behind. And I think that's like pretty important because when you're trying to grow a business, what I basically want is to have like-minded people to follow me
Okay.
and like on my journey, right?
Yeah.
To at least be like, hey, this is what I align with, and I hope you align with this too. And that kind of like cuts like a bunch of people that I don't want
Got it.
as
Okay.
well. Yeah. So it's very intentional.
Okay. But how would you say that translates to sales, or is that the main goal of when you create these content and to just generate sales, or do you also want to build a community that might not necessarily generate like clear revenue for you?
I think right now my goal is to generate like a community.
Okay.
My main goal isn't to like push tarot. I mean, technically it is, but
Yeah.
it's not like my main goal. Like I
Okay.
wanted to have like a nice community where like-minded people can get gathered together and like, be goofy and talk astrology,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you built that? Are you in the process of it?
I'm in the process of it. I think I have like a solid community now because
Okay.
like people have come up to me with interest in tarot now.
Nice.
And so they've wanted to have like readings from me. And like sometimes like people will like look at my stories and see like I made another person cry.
I
And
see that a
then
lot. You have a lot
yeah,
of those.
and people like will still come to me. It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, that must mean you're really good. Let me get a reading from you."
Is that your goal when you do tarot card readings?
With my no, honestly, like it didn't start off that way. Like when I started doing tarot, I wanted to basically like help people on like their self-healing journey.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting people to cry. And like the first experience I had with anyone crying was like an older like Asian auntie
Okay.
who was also running the markets with her daughter. And that's where I met her. She came over and then I did a one card pull on her. think it was a 10 of wands, and it basically asked her like, where can you like ask for help because you're taking on too much work or you're taking on too much labor. I think that really resonated with her because she just started crying.
As soon as you pulled the card.
Yeah,
Oh my
because
God.
like I feel like a lot of people that do come to me for readings want to feel seen and heard,
Okay.
right? But like when you're getting like a reading from someone who's like a complete stranger, you feel seen, and it's not something that you expect, right? You expect that from your family members, your friends. You don't expect it from a total stranger, and I think that's why people cry.
Interesting. It almost means more because it's not
Exactly.
like you're alone.
Yeah.
Sort of like this podcast.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Um, Interesting. Okay, so when you decided to turn this into a business, and I guess did that start when you were starting to sell the sea glass art, or did it start with the tarot card readings, or
It
was it sort of a progression?
actually started with the tarot card readings first.
Oh, okay.
Because a friend of mine wanted me to like attend the markets, because at that time I was still unemployed. And then he just told me like, hey, like there's a spot open, like you can vend next to me, right, and see how you do. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll start doing like tarot card readings and then sell my decks
Yeah.
because that's what I
And
happen
you
to
just
have
had
at
that
the
for
time.
fun.
Yeah,
Wow,
exactly. I
okay.
had that for fun. I had like a few like astrology postcards on the side as well, and those were a little bit popular for a time, but that kind of like dwindled, and now people just mainly come to me for like tarot readings.
Okay. Okay, okay. And then you just started adding in the art as well.
Yep.
So you had it there.
Yeah, and people do find my art really interesting because it's very like ocean themed.
Yeah.
And so like the funny story behind that was my dad was actually rescued by dolphins.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
incorporated a lot of like the elements of like the ocean into my art to kind of like honor that heritage of mine.
So can you tell us that story?
Yeah. So he was 13 years old when he escaped Vietnam, and I believe it was right after like North Vietnam had won the war.
Okay.
And so like a lot of like these Vietnamese like people like at this time they weren't sure of what their future was and they didn't want to be under like communist rule. So most of them fled by boat, like fishing boats, like very small fishing boats, and they would like go out to sea. And so he was one of those people that went out to sea. And he was out, I want to say between like a few days to like a few weeks. I'm not entirely sure, but it was long enough that they ran out of food. The
Did they have a
pilot,
did they
sorry,
have a location in mind, or they were just hoping?
either Malaysia or Thailand or like anywhere.
Okay, okay.
I think his destination was Malaysia. And so when they were basically stranded out at sea, one of the pilots didn't want to pilot the boat anymore. Basically, from what my dad told me, is that he ran out of drugs and he just kind of like was suffering from withdrawal symptoms.
Okay.
And so he took it upon himself to like learn how to pilot this little fishing boat.
Yeah.
And so he told him like, hey, like, can you teach me how to pilot this? Can you like show me what to do? Sorry.
Sure.
So he was taught like how to steer the boat. And then one day he just found a pod of dolphins just kind of like around the boat. And then he decided to follow them because where there's animals, there's bound to be food.
Yeah.
So he follows them, and then the dolphins lead him to Malaysia.
My goodness.
Yeah, and then they swim off.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of like how that
Oh my
happened.
goodness.
Yeah.
And so, what was the art that came out of that? You were saying, or that's this sea glass in general.
So the sea glass, I think because like I always have like this attached. Wow. Because I have an attachment to the ocean, that's kind of like why was so attached to the sea glass as well. It's kind of like representative of like transformation, returning to the water and then coming back to where you came from. I kind of like that liked that symbolism behind it. And then I would also like paint a lot of like seascapes. And then only recently I started introducing like paper boats because it was like part of my logo. I needed to design a logo for school
Yeah,
basically,
okay.
but I was like, what can I do? I kind of like boats. That's kind of like my family history. Why don't I incorporate boats?
Okay.
And so I started including like these little paper boats.
Why paper boats?
Paper boats only because like my mom used to like fold them a lot with me when I was
Oh,
younger.
nice. Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of like like a tie or like an homage to that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. But I remember like my first memory of like being attached or drawn to the water was literally watching Disney's The Little Mermaid. And I see like this ethereal being like singing part of your world, and I'm like a baby and eating green baby food.
You
So
remember that?
I
Even now?
remember that. I was
Wow.
sitting on my babysitter's lap in this position,
Okay.
and I'd just be looking at the TV and like looking at Ariel like swirl around and just like, yeah,
And then you were
I was hooked.
we were hooked.
I
Yeah.
was hooked. Yeah,
And that's how we have Andrea Lou Designs.
exactly.
Interesting. Okay. So what? I guess back to just the business itself. How do you how do you balance, or I guess when you were working before, how was it? How was that balance? Like, did you have a lot of interest in the work you were doing still, like as your full-time job, or was it mainly trying to do as much as you could for your business, or was it more just something on the side that you would do for fun?
It was full time for me only because I had been unemployed for a long time since last year.
Okay, got it.
Basically, I was working a design job and then I got let go from that job.
Okay,
Yeah. So I had been unemployed for, I want to say, maybe 6 to 7 months.
hmm
And then I got this job, and I was hoping that this money would basically fund my business as well. But it was also kind of like the job where it was in healthcare. So it
okay,
was kind of aligned to what I was doing because I wanted to help people like on their self-healing journey, but like on the mental health side of it. This
hmm
was more of like the physical side of it because you're also dealing with like patients.
yeah, yeah,
But it proved to be like extremely difficult. So I basically used the markets as like a way to kind of like help level me out emotionally because I was having like a really fun time at these markets and like getting to know people, but it was also like extremely draining.
it is, right? It's
Yeah,
very draining. Yeah. So how do you balance the draining part of it versus just wanting to do more and trying to make more money from it?
I couldn't.
Oh,
I couldn't do it.
you're doing
I
it though.
think like a lot of like people who start out doing this business, they kind of don't know how to balance their life, especially like if you're a first year like business owner, you're kind of trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
I've heard like horror stories of like other vendors or business owners where had they would just apply to these markets. They were on a like application spree, and they would like attend these markets so much that they would get burnt out like within the first year. And then afterwards, once you kind of like figure out after that first year, you know what to do during the second year.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Yeah.
fair. That's with everything too.
Yeah.
It takes a while.
Yeah.
And so, do you have any horror stories like that?
Honestly, yes. It was a little bit after I quit work. I was feeling like extremely burnt out. I think after our third market, actually, like the third
Oh,
week of that
okay.
market,
Yeah, yeah.
it was a really good market. Like,
Nice.
I ended up profiting,
Amazing.
thankfully. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it was good. But then, like, immediately, as soon as August hit, I physically crashed.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't quit yet. But basically, like, my full time work was taking a toll on me as well.
Mhm.
Because, again, you're working with, like, actual patients and, like, dealing with, like, the phone calls constantly. So I ended up, it got so bad. I've never taken, like, a sick day off work before, like, ever in my life
Yeah.
until, like, that moment.
Really.
Yeah. August hit, and I needed, like, an entire week for myself.
Wow.
Yeah. I
Was it
just called off sick.
exhaustion or what do you
Like,
think?
actual physical exhaustion.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how do you recover from that?
I think I'm still recovering from it.
Okay.
Yeah, I basically took this time to like focus on myself, like connect with my community, and kind of like use that as a way to kind of like remind myself like the markets that I go to, I basically wouldn't have made these friends if I never attended these markets in the first place. So this is kind of like who I'm doing it for. This is like my community that I'm attached to.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a pretty recent community then, right? That you're developing
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I guess you bond over just the fact that you're other small
Exactly.
business owners.
Other small business owners, but also like you're kind of like going through this journey together as well. Like you can also see like other people's mistakes and how you can like also avoid that as well.
Yeah.
There's also like, like community horror stories as well. And we kind of like I would like to think like we're close enough together to kind of be like, okay, well, yeah, you should kind of like be aware of this, but if you want to apply, like nothing's stopping you, but just be wary of this.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Okay, no,
yeah.
for sure, for sure.
It's nice. The
Yeah.
I feel like the community is just very connected with each other and like very supportive of each
No,
other.
yeah, it is
Yeah.
for sure. And it's good people too. They're just
Yeah.
fun people to be around.
Exactly. Like even though there's like minor competition, it's
Yeah.
very like you're still supportive of each other's growth, and that's like really nice to see.
Yeah. Do you find it competitive? Because you're sort of in different niches too, right?
I haven't found it very competitive, honestly, because like different artists will like produce different work,
Yeah.
and in a sense, like there should be competition. I
It
haven't
pushes
found
you.
it, but even if there is, like it's all very friendly competition. We also like support each other's growth. So like I haven't really found anyone to be like a threat ever. There's actually one other like tarot card reader that just recently came out, and like we hype each other up
Oh,
so much. Like
amazing.
we're still so supportive of each other, and it's
Yeah.
like it's really great.
Yeah, no, because I haven't really seen any other tarot card readers. So I feel like just having a couple at least is
Yeah,
a nice
exactly.
community to have.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So tell us about your biggest business failure so far.
My biggest business failure would have to be one of the markets that I applied to, and I didn't make enough profit, basically because I shared tables, which is
Oh,
like really interesting to me because normally when you share tables like with a friend, like it's expected for you to kind of like do really well.
yeah. It's half
But
the
I found like
cost.
I've shared my table like at least twice with like different vendors, and it's never gone that well. And I'm not exactly sure why.
Do you find, I guess, is it space you think, or
I'm not
is it
sure
more
if it's
competitive?
space, but I think it's because like they like people kind of assume like we're one unit. So they'll kind of like show one but then like not look at the other
Yeah.
because they think it's like one. I found like I do extremely well like tabling as like my own separate vendor, and like
Hmm.
I don't table share, which is kind of like a shame because I really want to support my friends too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to work with them or like split the
Yeah,
cost with them,
exactly,
right? No,
right? Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So how did you, okay, I guess in general, like your these failures or these challenges,
Yeah.
how do you stay motivated?
Honestly, because I'm a very spiritual person, I believe like every mistake you make like will help you to grow. So even if I do make a mistake, like I don't feel terrible about it because I know it's like it's something for me to learn.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you get to that stage where you believe in that, or like how do you not get bogged down by like the actual failure itself?
I think it comes from like again, I am a very spiritual person, so I
Hmm.
think like there has to be some level of like delulu.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes
Always.
the Lulu is the Solulu.
Yes.
I'm a Buddhist, so like normally like we believe like if you make a mistake, it's for your own good. Like you're supposed to learn something from this, and then you apply your lesson to like something else,
Okay, got
right?
it.
To kind
Yeah.
of like see like if you did learn your lesson.
Yeah. Okay, no, that
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense. That's interesting.
yeah.
And so just starting your business as it's pretty new, but I guess have you had to make a lot of personal sacrifices throughout the process?
Honestly, I haven't thought about that. I don't think I've made any personal sacrifices.
Amazing.
No, I lie. I
Okay.
did to my mental health.
Okay.
Yeah. For a time, like again, like I worked to a point where like it was like physically affecting me. Like and it basically when you do tarot readings for people, it takes a lot of energy out of you. It is very exhausting because people are also trauma dumping on you as well.
You're right. Okay.
Yeah. So in that sense, because it's also like physically draining, it's also very like emotionally, like mentally draining as well.
Hmm.
Because like you can I feel like for me personally, like I empathize with the person, so it's like yes, I understand how you're feeling. It's like okay, cool. So this is like how you move forward from that. But then if you kind of think about it, it's also like therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And you, especially the way you do it, it's a quick turnaround between them, right? You do a card reading. Are there,
Yeah.
yeah, there must be lines and stuff just waiting.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough. So where do you want the business to go? Where do you want it to move forward?
I kind of want to let it go organically and see where it goes. Like that's kind of like how I've always like operated in my life.
Okay.
Even when like I started going into graphic design, there was no goal for me to go into graphic design. I basically wanted to pursue something in art and then like see which doors open up for me.
Okay. And how do you know if a door opens up for you, or how does this?
It just happens. It literally just happens. Literally, so when I started going into graphic design, before that, I actually was in the Art Fundamentals program at Seneca, which is really good, by the way.
Okay.
Really fun. All of my profs were like highly supportive of me. They also like told me like what I'm really skilled at, what I'm good at. And then they told me, "Have you thought about going into graphic design?" And that wasn't an option before for me. It was either like I become an artist or I become like an animator, which is really hard to get into. Decided not to go that route.
Okay.
But then I was like thinking about it and I thought, why don't I just actually just give this a shot? If my profs are saying that I'm good, I should give it a try. Fast forward to now, graphic designer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It just happened.
Yeah.
People are just telling you what to
Literally just raw dogging life.
do. Okay. So let me tell you what's now kidding. You'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. The whole point is like if you have a goal in mind, like it's good, but it's also really like equally as important to enjoy the journey and the process as well. Even if
sure.
you like aren't able to reach that one particular goal, like it's more fun if you take side quests, you
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Because then that could be actually the much
Exactly.
better way to go about it.
Exactly.
No. Yeah. I fully agree. I don't really. I think it works against me too, but I don't really set goals too. And I
Yeah.
just hope for the best and see what's happening and then go from there. So yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
How has it been for you as like a business owner?
It's a lot harder than I thought. That was I don't know if you found that too, but I thought yeah, a few years in it would just be super successful, take a few risks and you're there, but
No, there's
we're
just new challenges on top
there's
of new
just more
challenges,
challenges.
right?
Yeah.
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 And that's like the whole point of like I guess growing a business too. Like you're always gonna encounter like challenges.
Yeah. Did you expect that when you started it?
Yeah,
Oh, you
I
did.
did. Yeah.
How'd you know? Who told you?
Nobody told me it.
Nobody told me.
I like cuz like I pretty much like figured like, you know, like in life like there's always going to be challenges thrown at you, so it's just better to constantly expect challenges. If you
Okay.
expect things to be easy,
Yeah.
it's just going to be harder for you.
That's true.
It's harder for you to cope that way.
But at a certain point, do you think the challenges will, or I guess you take these small wins, or there's challenges, but
Yeah.
they're higher challenges, easier challenges.
I think
You
like
learn.
if you're able to tackle the smaller challenges, the more challenges that you do, like the easier it is for you to handle like the bigger challenges.
Okay. Yeah. No, I fully agree.
Yeah.
What's what's the worst part about being a small business owner?
You literally have to do everything yourself. The marketing, the modeling, the photography, the videography, the like the ads, running the ads. You're
Yeah.
basically your own boss answering the emails. It just doesn't stop there.
Never does.
The billing, the mailing.
Taxes.
Exactly, the
Yeah.
taxes.
What's your least favorite part about of all of those?
The finance.
Oh, okay.
The finance bit.
Yeah. Have you used QuickBooks?
I don't use QuickBooks
Okay, me
actually,
neither.
yeah.
But if they want to sponsor us, we could use them.
Hey, I hope, I hope.
One day, one day.
Yeah,
Um, okay, no, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah. I go the old school route and I use Excel.
Okay,
Yeah, so I literally have like an Excel sheet that like a friend of mine gave like years ago. All the formulas are already plugged in, and I just have to enter like what amounts I used for gas, what amounts I used for, like actually for like investing in the business, like for the markets, anything that I've bought like art supplies, like trips, like how much food money I spent on food, groceries, for rent.
markets are ways for businesses to grow, and the overall mission is to like create these massive markets that would enable these businesses to grow. So I think sticking to that is quite important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what's your mission? Would you say do you have one?
It's open-ended right now.
Okay.
I'd rather not work with a mission statement
Okay.
only because like it kind of like confines you into like this little box where you kind of like have to stay in that box.
Yeah,
It doesn't allow for growth.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
But it also kind of like is dependent on like the person. Like if it helps for you to have a mission statement, absolutely have the mission statement.
Hmm.
I don't have one.
What's your high level goal of the business?
Just for people to heal themselves. I think
Oh, okay.
that's like my main goal. Like I
Yeah.
didn't go into this like thinking like, oh, I'm gonna have like a multi-billion-dollar like business and like live in a mansion with like my 5 dogs or whatever.
Yeah.
Like my main goal is to basically just help people
And okay. And so
and make art.
okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
It's a perfect mix.
Yeah.
What would you say is the best way to, and is helping people, is that like the best way to do that is through these readings and through giving them arts?
Yeah, pretty much. Because I find like with these readings, like it's like a fun way to introduce like spirituality like back into like mental health practices.
Hmm.
Because like back in the day, we would used to like go to these shamans or like these medicine doctors for like advice, right? And now like people have kind of like removed spirituality from that mental health practice, and like they approach it with a more scientific like viewpoint. So like even if you look at like all like these groups that are like holistic, like hippies or like anything like that, like a lot of mental health practices they preach like try doing yoga, try journaling, right? Try being a little like being more introspective, eat healthy. You know some people even like take it as far as like going to church or like joining a religion like Buddhism, right?
Hmm.
Because like there's like this kind of like innate call to like return to like that part of you that you've kind of like abandoned.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah, it's definitely gotten away from us as a society. Yeah, no, I that's a great mission. Oh, I
Yeah.
don't want to say mission, but it's a great
Yeah.
high level
Yeah.
statement.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Um, okay, I think that's everything. Do you have anything else you'd like to share?
I don't know if I have anything to share. I probably have like some
You,
more questions for you though.
oh, yeah, sure. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Like in terms of like, because I know a lot of like vendors, they prefer to kind of like share with like other vendors as well, right? Like how do
Mhm.
you like as an organizer feel about that? Like are you open to that or are you more opposed to that?
No, I'm definitely open to it, and I think
Yeah.
that's why we had the group chats.
Yeah.
Um, and like sometimes it opens for complete. Yeah, it's just. But then again, like the same questions were being asked in those things, and
Mm-hmm.
it's easier if it's those questions don't get asked to everyone because
Mm-hmm.
that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and like and so in our next market or something we're also looking at is creating forums or like um, maybe not conferences, but sort of like networking opportunities for other businesses to get to know each other.
Mm.
Because like we don't exist without vendors, and vendors trust each other, and like trust is the most important thing with this whole space.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, and you learn from each other better than you would learn from us. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, I want to encourage that as much as possible, as long as it's efficiently done
Mm-hmm.
and useful for your interactions.
So then like on that same like plane or like level of questioning, I know like with like Shomigo in like particular, or even like not even Shomigo, but like other markets, like
Mhm.
some organizers are very particular about like which vendors to have. Like, is that do you have like a personal preference on like who applies or like who you want to showcase at the markets or?
Not, I wouldn't say, no, we don't like have a pref. We want a broad range of
Mm-hmm.
different vendors. And so the main thing where we have to say no to vendors is well, first we always, because we've sort of built that community, we want to give vendors that we've had before the opportunity to come back. But then we just want to limit the categories, like the number of people, the number of vendors per
Mm.
category, and that's sort of where we end up. And then certain categories fill up a lot quicker, like jewelry or baked goods, they fill up right away. And then so we have to like just try to fill up all of them equally or try to get as many like a wide variety of vendors as possible. So that's honestly the only our biggest thing in terms of just getting the categories filled up and getting the vendors to actually yeah, making sure it's not like oversaturated in some certain areas. But yeah, I've no because we want to expose customers to all these different types of products, and they're all very unique in their own way. But there's some like underlying themes that we have to just cap,
Mm-hmm.
and that's actually a big piece of feedback we got from our first market because we didn't do that. We just had like the first vendors to sign up, they got it, and then it was oversaturated in some areas, and so that was something we had to work on to keep that. But personally, or as a company, there's nothing really that limits vendor selection. Yeah.
Is it
Should there
difficult?
be?
I don't know.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I'm not the organizer.
Oh, okay.
I have big brain thinking, but
Yeah.
it's not that big.
Okay, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's just just a way of keeping it even for everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's like pretty much like the only question.
Okay, nice, nice. But no, thank you so much for joining us. This was amazing.
Yeah, no
Your
worries.
story is great and very inspirational, and
Thank you.
you'll get through it. We'll get through it together.
We'll get through it together.
We'll get through it. Nice. Where can customers find you? What's your socials? How do they reach you?
Right now, you can only find me on Instagram, so it's andrealu.designs. So
Okay.
that's Andrea and then LUU.designs.
Okay, perfect. And we'll tag that in all our content as well.
Great.
But yeah, no, your content's amazing too, so
Perfect,
highly
thank you.
recommend it.